Hi everyone, today we are going to begin with another chapter, that is natural disasters, right? So what are natural disasters? We all know that the disasters, the calamities that occur naturally, like earthquakes, cyclones, volcanic eruptions or avalanches, all these that occur naturally, the disasters that occur naturally, which are out of control of humans. All right, humans can't control them. We can only safeguard ourselves from them. We cannot control them. All right, so these are some natural disasters that occur in nature. We will study about them in detail, what they are, some examples, how to safeguard ourselves from them. So let's start. Okay, so what are natural disasters? Okay, what are natural disasters? Natural disasters are catastrophic events. Catastrophic means devastating, damaging. Okay, they cause catastrophe that occur due to natural processes and have a significant impact on the environment and human life. So they have a very large impact on the environment and on us humans. They occur due to natural processes, right? They can cause widespread destruction. They can cause a vast amount of destruction. They can cause loss of lives. People die, animals die, a lot of life is lost due to natural disasters, and severe economic damage. Okay, so severe economic damage, if there is a big natural disaster, it can cause a lot of economic damage, It is important for students to understand various types of natural disasters. Okay, so for you it is very important to understand the various types of natural disasters, how are they caused, and the measures to mitigate their effects. So mitigate means to escape their effects, to get safety, right? In this lesson, we will cover 4 topics: cyclones, droughts, landslides, and avalanches. Alright, we will cover these 4 major natural disasters. Okay, so let's start. Now, what is cyclones? What are cyclones? Okay, so a cyclone is a large scale atmospheric disturbance. A large scale, you understand large scale? On a very big scale, it is an atmospheric disturbance, okay, characterized by a low pressure center and circulating winds. So we have all seen cyclones. They have a low pressure center and a whirlwind, a hurricane type cyclone around it. Okay, these have high winds blowing, and this is a low pressure center. Okay, it typically forms over warm ocean waters near the equator. It forms near equators. All right, because there the water is warm. Why the water is warm? Because equator receives the maximum amount of sunlight of the earth, right? So it heats up near the equator. Thus there is cyclones around the equator. The intense heat and moisture from the ocean fuel the cyclone. So the heat and moisture from the ocean is what keeps the cyclone moving. Okay, leading to its development. The warm ocean water near the equator, right? A lot of heat, it fuels means it gives energy to the cyclone, not in the form of petrol or anything, but this is what keeps the cyclone moving. This is what gives rise to a cyclone. This is what keeps the cyclone moving, leading to its development. The Coriolis effect caused by the Earth's rotation influences the cyclone's rotation direction. So the Coriolis effect that occurs due to the Earth's rotation. So the Earth looks like this and it is rotating, right? If the Earth is like this, it is rotating this way, right? Now, it causes an effect called the Coriolis effect. that influences the cyclone's rotation direction. Okay, so it is due to this that we will know where the winds are blowing, in which direction, anti-clockwise or clockwise, right? Is it going this way, the winds are going this way, or is it going this way? That will be due to the Coriolis effect caused by the Earth's rotation. Now we will see how a cyclone is formed. What are the stages of a cyclone? So the formation. First one is the formation of the cyclone. Warm ocean waters evaporate. So if there is this ocean water, it receives a lot of sunlight, right? It is getting warm and the water starts evaporating. Okay, forming clouds and releasing heat energy. So there are clouds being formed over the ocean. Depression, the second part is depression. Low pressure center develops and winds start to circulate. So what happens is, now since over this sea surface there is a lot of low pressure. Low pressure is where there's a lot of heat. Okay, there's a lot of heat. It develops into a low pressure. Okay, this area is of low pressure and winds start to blow around it. Okay, again it will blow around it. Again it will blow around it. So these winds, they start blowing around that low pressure area very fast. Okay, a low pressure center develops and winds start to circulate. Now a cyclonic storm. Okay, wind speed increases. This wind that was blowing, it increases. Okay, and cyclone gains strength. Now as more and more wind catches the cyclone, okay, more and more speed of the winds, this will lead to a cyclonic storm. The cyclone becomes more powerful. Okay, I will show you how powerful it can get. See, this is an example of a cyclone seen from space. This low pressure area would cover countries. Okay, maybe two regions of countries. Okay, so this is a very big cyclone, right? You can imagine how strong it would be. So this is a cyclonic storm. Severe cyclonic storm. Wind speeds become more and more intense. A very powerful cyclone. Okay, so what would happen is, it would take away houses with it, trees with it, right? The winds are so strong and heavy rainfall occurs, and since it contains clouds from seas, there is a heavy rainfall with it as well. Very severe cyclonic storm, the cyclone reaches its peak intensity. Okay, so it started forming, it had a depression, then it became a cyclonic storm, it became severe, now it has become very severe. This is the highest stage of the cyclone, which is the most intense. The cyclone reaches its peak intensity. Peak means the highest intensity it can have. Now, super cyclonic storm. This is a rare and extremely powerful cyclone. This is a rare cyclone. Okay, it is very rare that there is a super cyclonic storm that has a very strong wind. Okay, this is very rare, with winds exceeding 220 km per hour. Okay, so winds blowing as fast as the bullet train, right? Very fast, strong winds which can carry away houses, which can carry away everything that comes in its path. It is a destructive. And now see over here, this cyclone, this shows the heat signature. Okay, so the red or very red area has hot or low pressure. Okay, so there is heat and low pressure. The center you can see, right? And this is the direction of the cyclonic storm, this direction. Okay, now let's come to cyclones. Can cause devastating effect. Devastating means very damaging effects. Okay, it can cause a lot of damage, including strong winds, torrential rainfall, storm surges and flooding. Okay, so it can cause a lot of rainfall, it can cause storms, it can cause flooding. They can damage infrastructure, they can damage the buildings, they can damage the houses, they can uproot trees, means the trees will be uprooted from the ground and will be carried away in the wind and result in a loss of lives. Since a lot of structures are washing away, it will lead to a loss of life. Some examples of severe cyclones include Hurricane Katrina. Okay, so this was a hurricane Katrina that was in USA. Cyclone Fanny. Okay, this was in India. Typhoon Haiyan, this was in Philippines. So it usually occurs near the equator, right? If this is the earth, okay, that imaginary line at the center we call the equator. Cyclones mostly occur near it, okay, near it. Why? Because it receives a lot of sunlight from the sun, right? Now, what are the safety measures that we can do when a cyclone occurs? So, recently also there was a cyclone near Odisha in India. So, to mitigate the impact of cyclone, it is crucial to take preventive measures. We should take preventive measures so that we can safeguard ourselves from the impact of cyclone. So, what are they? What are these measures? Early warning systems to alert people in affected areas. If we get to know about the cyclone very early, all right, in the developing stages, in the formation stages, we can have enough time to get out of that area, clear that area, move to a safer ground, right? Because we cannot stop a cyclone, but we can safeguard ourselves from a cyclone. Evacuation plans and designated shelters for people at risk. So, if for example, in Odisha, there is a cyclone coming, the people of Odisha will move from that area. All right, there would be evacuation plans. Okay, the necessary authorities, the rescue authorities, and the evacuation plans will be in effect, and they will be clearing the people out of the area where the cyclone is about to hit, right? And they will make shelters for them, they will make proper infrastructure for them to safeguard themselves in basements, in bunkers, right? uh, they would move to other states, okay, until the cyclone has passed away. Reinforcement of buildings to withstand high winds. So we can reinforce the buildings, we can make them stronger so that they don't wash off in cyclones. Proper drainage systems to prevent flooding. Okay, so we can improve the drainage system of that area so that there is no water clogging and water can flow easily through drains, otherwise there will be a big flood. Now let's come to droughts. Okay, so what are droughts? Let me tell you what are droughts. Droughts are prolonged periods of abnormally low rainfall. So if in a patch of land no rainfall for around a year, okay, for around 6 months, for 8 months, for 1 year, okay, there was no rainfall, what would happen? That sand would be very dry, there would be cracks on the soil, it would not be fertile, there would be no plants, right? How a desert, right? But droughts are in other areas. So droughts are prolonged periods of abnormally low rainfall. What does abnormally means? Means normally it was not so, but suddenly there is no rainfall for a long period of time, leading to water scarcity. What would happen is all the water would be evaporated from the ground and it would be very dry, and dry conditions. They can occur due to natural factors. This can occur naturally, such as prolonged dry seasons. Okay, prolonged dry seasons. Okay, lack of rainfall. Lack of rainfall means there was no rainfall. Climate change, dry seasons, maybe summers were prolonged that year, or climate variations like El Nino. So in this year as well there is El Nino effect. What does happen? Is it that the Pacific Ocean starts warming abnormally? Okay, there is a ring of fire, there is a lot of warming up of the Pacific Oceans which disturbs the currents, okay, and it causes adverse climatic conditions. So maybe there's a lot of rainfall somewhere, or maybe there's drought somewhere else. Okay, human activities like deforestation. So if there is a lot of tree cutting, means it has disturbed the water cycle, right? And the soil will lose its fertility and all the moisture content ultimately, because there are no trees, there are no forests. And also excessive water consumption. So if I consume a lot of water from a place, so like all the groundwater, all the rainwater that was saved, everything is consumed, then there will be a drought. Okay, what do droughts look like? They look like this. See over here. There are cracks on the surface of the earth. Okay, there is no rainfall, it is all dry, right? The crops, they will dry up, there is no plant life, they will dry up. This is what happens in droughts, right? It is a very severe condition. No food would grow on this crop because there is no water, right? So people also will suffer malnourishment, right? There would be no food for them, right? We cannot grow crops. This soil is not fertile, no water. Also, the plants and animals as well will die. Right? So, this is a drought. Now, droughts have severe consequences on ecosystem. They have very severe consequences on ecosystems, agriculture and human life. Some effects include crop failure, water shortages, soil erosion, and increased risk of wildfires. Okay, so they have very severe consequences. Agriculture and human life would be devastated. Some would be crop failure, water shortage, soil erosion, increased risk of wildfires. So since there is a lot of dry condition, the wood would be dry and it would catch fire easily. Some of the examples include Dust Bowl in United States during 1930s. So there was a severe drought in the United States of America during 1930s, and the Sahel drought in Africa. Africa is known to suffer through many droughts, okay, during 1960s, 70s. Now, how do we safeguard ourselves? To mitigate the effects of droughts, the following strategies can be employed. First is water conservation techniques, right? So water conservation techniques such as rainwater harvesting and drip irrigation. Okay, so rainwater harvesting and drip irrigation means drip irrigation, we construct pipes, okay, on growing crops which will drip little water right directly to the roots of these plants. Okay, so this is drip irrigation. It is a water conservation method. Most of the water is not wasted. Rainwater harvesting, so whenever rain comes, we store that excessive rainwater in tanks. Efficient use of water in agriculture and industry. So efficient means I use only that much that is necessary, right? I do not waste it. I efficiently use the water. Afforestation and proper land management to prevent soil erosion. So afforestation means planting of more trees in areas where a lot of trees have been cut, right? Afforestation and planting more trees elsewhere. Proper land management means I do not excessively use one piece of land and not the other. I use proper land management to prevent soil erosion, right? Education and awareness campaigns to promote water conservation practices. Okay, so I educate the people, I create awareness that how you should use the water in rural areas, in villages where they are using a lot of water, so that they can use it wisely and it does not go out of stock, right? Out of stock. Now we come to landslides. So what are landslides? Landslides are the rapid movement of rocks, debris and soil down a slope. So what happens during landslide is, let me show you. Land slides down a slope, right? This is a slope, it goes like this, and land which was on top is flowing down. Okay, this is landslide. This is what happens in a landslide. So what is happening over here is, land at the top of a slope will slide down due to some conditions. Now what are those conditions? They can occur due to various factors including heavy rainfall. Okay, so if there is a lot of rainfall, like in monsoon season in Himalayas we see a lot of landslides. Why? Because due to water, a lot of soil flows down with it, right? Flows down with water, right? Earthquakes can cause landslides. Earthquakes can lead to shifting of the land, which can lead it to fall of the slope, right? Volcanic eruptions. Now, what are volcanic eruptions? Volcanic eruptions, like uh, in India there is only one active volcano, but in areas where there are very active volcanoes, that lead to the shaking of the earth and can cause landslides. And human activities such as deforestation or construction of unstable slopes. So what happens is, if there is a very steep slope, right, a very steep slope, most probably the land on top will fall due to any condition like rainfall or movement of the land. Also, deforestation, what happens during deforestation is this: the roots of these trees, they bind the soil, if these trees are cut, uprooted, okay, what would happen is, this soil would be loose and it would flow down, right, it would be easily washed away. Steep slopes and loose soil increase the risk of landslides. Okay, so steep slopes and loose soil increase the risk of landslides. What are types of landslides? Okay, so what are types of landslides? Rock falls. Rocks detach and fall freely down a slope. So if there were rocks at the top, they would fall freely down the slope, right? Now slides, masses of soil or rock move along a well-defined surface. So let me show you. This is slide. Rock and sand and mud, it is flowing down the slope, sliding. Right, now mixed flows. Now what are flows? Mixture of debris, water and soil move downward. This occurs during the monsoon. Okay, if there is water, if there is soil, if there is debris, they move down the slope. Slumps, what are slumps? Large blocks of material that move down and rotate along a curved surface. Okay, large blocks of material that move down and rotate around a curved surface. So let me show you again. So this is a curved surface, right? Something that falls over here like this would be a slump. Now, what are some effects and examples? Landslides can cause extensive damage, including destruction of infrastructure. Roads are disrupted, transport is disrupted, a lot of mines, they suffer landslides, loss of lives, because of the workers working there would be hurt and they will lose lives, and disruption of transportation. So if there is a landslide on a road, that road has now been destroyed. Now how will people travel, right? So disruption of transport. Examples include 2014 Oso landslide in Washington. This was a very severe landslide. And the 2017 Sierra Leone landslide. This was also a very severe landslide. How do we prepare for it? How do we prevent them? Efforts to prevent landslides and reduce their impact include proper land use. Okay, so the proper land use, planning to avoid construction in landslide prone areas. Okay, now I use land properly, I plan it to avoid construction in landslide prone areas. So I would not take my road through a landslide prone area, because it would be ultimately damaged. We go around it, we do not go through a landslide prone areas. What is a landslide prone area? Where there are where landslides are more likely to occur with excessive slope, right? Building retaining walls and slope stabilizing measures. Building retaining walls. Now what do retaining walls do? They stop it. They stop the landslide. And slope stabilizing measures, right? So if there is a slope, I put some walls over here, right? A barrier, so that when soil flows, it does not harm my road that goes through here, right? Afforestation and reforestation to enhance slope stability. I put more trees, I do reforestation, right, to ensure slope stability. How? More roots means more binding to the land. Early warning systems to evacuate people from high risk areas. So if there is a lot of rainfall, if there is some shifting in the land, So I can warn, we have early warning systems that can tell that landslide is about to occur, and we can prepare. We can evacuate the people, we can prepare. Now we come to another important natural disaster, that are avalanches. Okay, now avalanches, these are rapid downhill movements of snow, ice and debris. So let me show you what happens during avalanche. Snow mountains, right? A lot of snow, heavy snow, land, dust and debris. Debris is these rocks and all. They move down the slope. It is like a landslide but in snow. Okay, so these are avalanches. If someone is over here, there are chances he will be buried in snow. It could lead to death. It could lead to a lot of damage, right? So these are avalanches. They occur when a weak layer of snow collapses under the weight of the snowpack above. These will occur when a weak layer of snow collapses. So like if this is a mountain, right? And it has several layers, right? So if there is a weak layer, if it collapses, it will take with itself all of the snow with itself down, right? So factors such as steep slopes. So if it is a very steep, very high and steep slope. So steep slopes are usually like these, right? Very steep, not very inclined, very steep. Heavy snowfall, if there is a lot of heavy snowfall, it will lead to shifting of the snow down. Changes in temperature contribute to avalanche formation. So like if snow is started to melt, right, it would, and one layer of snow melts and there's a lot of snow over it, it would lead to avalanche, it would lead to slope. Now types of avalanches, there are types of avalanches. Loose snow avalanche, okay, so dry powdery snow that cascades down a slope. So this snow would be dry, powdery, like powder, and it would move down a slope. Slab avalanches, okay, so slab avalanches, layers of snow sliding as a cohesive unit. So like I told you, supposedly this is a mountain and there are various layers of snow, right, on the mountain. This would flow down. Effects and examples. Avalanches pose a significant threat to mountainous regions. Okay, they pose a very big threat to mountainous regions and can bury okay, entire areas including buildings and roads. Okay, so if there is a avalanche and supposedly there was a road going over here, right, a road going over, this would be buried in snow. Okay, transport would not be possible, people will lose lives, right? They can bury entire towns. So the snow is in such number, in such a large quantity that it can cover entire cities, okay, small towns, small villages. Okay, this can be very fatal, this can lead to injuries, this can lead to death, this can lead to destruction, this can lead to fatalities. People wouldn't know because they are buried under the snow, right? Even the dead bodies are not found sometimes. Examples of deadly avalanches include the 2002 Kolka Karmadon avalanche in Russia. This was a very big avalanche. And 2014 Mount Everest avalanche. So Mount Everest is the biggest mountain, right? It has the highest peak and there was an avalanche in 2014 over there. Now, how do we safeguard ourselves? Again, preventing and managing avalanches require the following measures. It requires the following measures. Avalanche forecasting and monitoring to assess the risk in specific areas, right? So there are more systems, tools, right, to forecast if there would be an avalanche, if there is heavy snow occurring, if there is heavy rainfall occurring, if there is a slight change in temperature, then we can estimate if there is an avalanche about to occur, right? So this is called forecasting and monitoring to assess the risk specific areas. So if we can make an idea about if there is an avalanche going to come, we can prevent it, we can safeguard ourselves, we can evacuate the area. Controlled triggering of avalanches to prevent danger from uncontrolled ones. So we cause a small avalanche so that we can prevent a big one, right? We let some snow fall off the mountain so that it does not build up and fall altogether. Snowpack analysis and assessment of snow stability. Educating individuals about safe practices in avalanche prone areas. So we tell them about, if you see something like that, we create awareness, how do you safeguard yourself, how do you alert everyone, what are the safe practices in these areas, right? So avalanche safety, 90% of victims trigger their own avalanche. Okay, so mostly they trigger their own avalanche. This is an avalanche prone area, so they can put a warning sign over here that avalanches can occur, right? This is an example of a safety poster issued by Scotland government, right? So that was all for natural disasters. I hope you liked this lecture. Thank you.